You know, we tend to think that a high IQ is all about finding the right answer and finding it fast. But what if its real superpower isn't about the answer at all? What if it's about finding the right question? That's what we're digging into today, this incredible link between high intelligence and a skill that honestly changes everything, problem framing.
So yeah, let's just jump right in with that. Does having a high IQ just boil down to raw mental horsepower? You know, just solving puzzles faster than the next person? Most people would probably nod and say yes. But the real story, well, it's so much more interesting than that.
Okay, so it really all comes down to this huge foundational difference between two ways of thinking: problem solving and problem framing. Now, I know they sound kind of similar, right? But trust me, they're playing on completely different fields.
So, first up, you've got your traditional problem solving. This is what we all learned in school, right? It's totally linear, kind of like following a recipe. The problem is super clear. Think of a math equation. Your job is just to follow the steps, apply the formula, and boom, you get to that one single correct answer.
But then, you've got problem framing. And this is a whole different ball game. Seriously, it's not about racing to the answer. It's about figuring out what the actual problem is in the first place. This is for all those messy, ambiguous, real-world challenges where you don't even know what the goal is yet. It's really the art of asking a much, much better question. So if you take away one thing, let it be this. Problem solving is all about finding a solution to a problem someone else hands you. But problem framing, that's about taking a giant step back and discovering the right question to even be working on. It's the difference between running a race and drawing the map. And you can see that contrast laid out so clearly here. Problem solving is linear. It's what we call convergent thinking. It's all about narrowing things down to find that single right answer. Framing, on the other hand, is iterative. It's divergent. It's about blowing the doors open to new possibilities, which is exactly what you need for those big, messy, real-world problems.
All right, so where does a high IQ fit into all of this? Well, it essentially gives you this incredibly powerful cognitive toolkit that's just perfectly suited for the messy, creative work of problem framing. So let's pop the hood and see what's inside.
Inside this toolkit, you're going to find three core mental abilities that all work together. We've got abstract reasoning, cognitive flexibility, and an advanced working memory. Let's break down exactly what each of these amazing tools does for you.
Okay, tool number one. This is the real powerhouse of the toolkit: abstract reasoning.
This is that classic ability to see the forest for the trees. It's all about spotting those non-obvious patterns, connecting ideas that seem totally unrelated on the surface. With this, you're not just treating the symptoms of a problem, you're diagnosing the root cause.
All right, next up we have the tool that keeps you from ever getting stuck in a rut: cognitive flexibility.
I love this one. Think of it like your brain's gear shifter. It's what allows you to say, you know what, this approach isn't working, and then just pivot. You can abandon a failing strategy, question your own baked-in assumptions, and look at a problem from a totally fresh angle. It is the absolute enemy of rigid, this is how we've always done it thinking.
And finally, you've got the engine that makes the whole thing run: advanced working memory.
This is literally like the RAM in your computer, but for your brain. Having a bigger, more advanced working memory means you can hold and mentally juggle way more variables, more ideas, more perspectives, all at the same time without getting totally overloaded. And for navigating really complex problems, that is an absolute game changer.
Okay, but here's a really important point. Just having this amazing toolkit isn't the whole story. A high IQ might get you a ticket to the game, it gets you in the door for elite-level problem framing, but it absolutely does not guarantee you're going to win.
This brings us to a fascinating idea called the threshold theory. Now, what the research seems to show is that for really high-level creativity, you kind of need a baseline IQ of around 120. But here's the kicker. Beyond that point, having an even higher IQ, well, it doesn't really seem to make you any more creative. Suddenly, other factors become way more important.
So what are these other factors? Well, first, there's creativity itself, of course. That's what fuels all the new ideas. Then you've got domain expertise. You need the raw material, the knowledge to work with. But there's a catch. Expertise can also be a trap, locking you into old ways of thinking. And, maybe most importantly, you have to be able to consciously overcome your own built-in cognitive biases.
And speaking of bias, this is so important, we have to make a crucial distinction. There's problem framing, the skill we've been talking about, and then there's deframing effect, which is a cognitive bias. The skill is a conscious, deliberate choice to define a problem. The bias, on the other hand, is when you're subconsciously manipulated by how an option is presented, like 90% fat-free versus 10% fat.
A high IQ doesn't make you immune to this bias, but it gives you the tools to hopefully catch yourself and correct for it.
Okay, enough with the theory, right? Let's see this in action. What does problem framing actually look like out in the real world? I've got a perfect example of how one simple reframe led to a massive breakthrough innovation.
And you really have to start with this quote, which is often attributed to Einstein. It just perfectly nails the entire philosophy. The real value isn't in jumping to a solution right away. It's in that deep, deliberate, intellectual work of truly, and I mean truly, understanding the problem you're even trying to solve.
All right, now for a much more down-to-earth and, frankly, brilliant example. Back in the 1980s, carrot farmers had a big problem. A lot of their carrots were misshapen or just ugly, and they couldn't sell them. So their initial question was, how can we get rid of all this unsightly carrot waste? And that question, led to pretty boring solutions, right? Like turning them into juice or animal feed or just throwing them out.
But then, one farmer, a guy named Mike Eurosek, completely reframed the problem. He asked a totally different and way better question. He asked, how might we make an unsellable carrot sellable again? And boom, that brilliant reframe changed everything. The focus immediately shifted from waste disposal to product innovation, and the solution became obvious. Peel them, cut them into a new shape, and that's how we got baby carrots. He literally created an entirely new billion-dollar market just by asking a better question.
See? That's the incredible power of becoming what you might call an architect of insight. You're not just solving problems anymore, you're designing them. And the best part, you absolutely do not need a genius-level IQ to start practicing this skill for yourself.
Seriously, you can start building this muscle today. Here are 3 simple ways. First, engage in some divergent thinking. The next time you have a problem, force yourself to write it out in at least 5 completely different ways. Second, challenge every assumption. For every given in your problem, ask why. Is that really true? And third, work on that cognitive flexibility. Go learn something completely new, something totally outside your field. It's like cross-training for your brain.
So I'll leave you with this one thought. The next time you're banging your head against the wall in some tough challenge, just stop. Stop trying to find a better answer, and instead, ask yourself this: what problem in my life right now needs a better question? Thanks for listening.